Apple versus Facebook. What's happening? There's a lot of information out there online. There's a lot of people who think this is the end of online marketing. There's a lot of doomsday sayers out there, and I wanted to make this video just to try my best to explain exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and what you need to be doing right now if you are a business owner, and especially if you are running online ads. So in short, this is a developing situation. It's been going on for a little while, and although there has been a big change with the new iOS update, this situation will develop and more information will come out in the future. But right now, what we know is essentially Apple has turned around and stopped users from being tracked as they browse the internet when they're using their new software update. There's a good question in why would they want to do this? You probably have to look at the places like Facebook and Google for that answer. Facebook and Google, they make a lot of money placing adverts in front of users. And they do this effectively because they track what those users do online, and that helps them optimize the ads so they can put ads in front of the right people. So if we think about Apple's business model is not about placing ads. They're not making ad revenue. At least their business isn't mainly focused around that source of income. So when they're sitting there with about 1 billion people using their devices, the question is, well, if my users want to keep their privacy intact, why would I be allowing external platforms to track users whilst they're using my devices? They've put more weight on user privacy and decided to say, hey, we're gonna block it. Or at least to some extent, we're gonna block it. And that's probably where we arrive to our first big question and our first big debate. A lot of people out in the world right now are saying, well, hey, if they're blocking users from being tracked, that's the end of effective online marketing. So let me just settle some nerves out there. They are not blocking all tracking. You can still have conversion events that are still going to fire in your business manager. This means that your campaigns can still optimize really effectively. But there is a slight catch in that there's no longer this free-for-all of pixel information that can move between Facebook and a website, for example. It's being constricted. So we all know about pixels that sit on websites. They track certain events, whether someone views a product in your Shopify store, whether someone goes and adds a product to basket on your online store, whether someone goes to purchase things. We have lots of different events. This update that is happening by Apple is basically going to squash the infinite number of bits of data that can come from a pixel down to 8 events. So really, if you're an e-commerce business, if you're using Shopify and you're using the normal kind of out-of-the-box events, view content, add to cart, purchase, chances are this really isn't going to affect you in a big way. This is going to affect you if you are one of the companies out there who has spent time building custom conversion events. Now is the time to really get your game plan and your strategy together and reconsidered, because like I say, for the users using the iOS 14 update, for the users who opt out of being tracked, we only have 8 events that we can choose from when it comes to tracking users. So I'm sure you see where I'm going with this. If we have 30 custom events set up, we've got to start to prioritize which ones we want to be using and where. So moving forward, when we build our ad sets and we look for the conversion functionality, we're only going to be able to choose the 8 conversion events that we set on our domain. Now, I'm going to touch on that a little bit in a minute because there's something very important that we've got to do when it comes to our domain. But that is basically the long and short of what's happening, is the amount of information we're going to be getting back is going to be limited. And we also need to prioritize what the most important one is first, and then look at our second, third, fourth place, all the way down to our top 8 conversions. The reason why we have to rank order which events we want to fire is because there may be instances where only 1 event can fire. There may be events where 2 or 3 can fire. And we're going to need to set up our business managers to say, okay, in the case that only 1 can fire, what is our most valuable one? For most people, this is going to be purchase. As you can imagine, we're going to want to know what's selling, where, and how much. I understand that this is going to be constricting some marketers to some extent. We can still optimize campaigns and we can still see purchases come through in our business manager. Someone recently asked me, how do I think this is going to affect the top line at the end of the day when it comes to the budget being allocated to Facebook marketing? Now, if I was to guess a percentage of how much we're going to take a hit on effectiveness when we look at our Facebook campaigns, I'm going to guess around about 5%, because we've already got a roadmap of the things we need to do to ensure that our optimizations are happening. So that's not to say that this change won't affect marketers. It will. Quite simply, there's not that much data coming back as there was before. But you do have to remember that Facebook's internal systems, that's the place where all of the user behavior and the history is really sitting. So if you're optimizing something for purchase, Facebook still has that data and they're still going to be able to optimize it in a really good way for purchases. Are they going to be able to see aspects of the full journey? No, but that doesn't mean that they're not incredibly effective at doing their job. And we all know that there's a lot of money at stake here, and chances are Facebook and Google right now are thinking of some super clever ways to potentially even improve the system. So the first thing we're going to want to do is verify our domains. In short, what this means is if you are marketing for your business, Facebook's business manager is going to want to check that you actually have control over the domain that you're sending traffic to, that you do actually have the ability and the right to change the rank order of what custom events you want to fire, for example. You do this by really simply taking a little key, a text file, which is going to be given to you under the events manager in Facebook Business Manager. You want to go and paste that into where you register your domain. Basically, Facebook is going to then know that you own that domain and you're good to go. So once we've registered the domain, there is a key difference in how the results will be attributed to your business manager. You're going to remember when you run conversion campaigns, you can see purchases come through, you can see add to carts come through almost in real time. That's now going to have a delay. Now that does have some repercussions. This means that we are now no longer in a position to make changes and turn off and turn on ads kind of hour to hour. Now we're going to need to leave a window of about 48 to 72 hours for those numbers to attribute to the ads. What do I mean by this? If I'm selling a book and I'm running ads, I might sell 10 copies in a day, but those 10 copies and those 10 sales won't show in my business manager potentially for 2 to 3 days down the line. This is going to mean that when we're looking at optimizing our campaigns, turning on ads, turning on ad sets, we've now got to take this a little slower. You're going to want to look at things over maybe a week long and then make decisions based on some good data. We can't anymore make knee-jerk reactions on ads based on what's attributing in our ads manager in real time, because it won't be in real time. That's a big one. Further to that, the attribution window of the sales is now being reduced. Now, the attribution window is basically saying, okay, if someone sees an advert, how long after that point in time can you attribute the sale to that advert? If I put an advert on your newsfeed for a book and you click it, but you decide that you didn't want to buy it that day and you went back, 3 weeks later and bought it, if we had our usual 28-day attribution window, that sale would still register to you. But you guessed it, that's not the case anymore. That's being squashed right down to 7 days. So this means that you could be having ads that are running quite effectively. You're putting it in front of the audience. They're buying in 3 weeks' time, but those sales aren't attributing in your business manager. This can be throwing a lot of people off when they're starting to understand the effectiveness of their ads. Now you've got to go a little bit back to old school ways of looking at your Shopify breakdowns, your Thrivecart breakdowns, or looking what money you're making in your e-commerce platforms, then doing a little bit of maths. Obviously, you've got Google Analytics where you can see where sales are coming through in terms of URL link directions. You need to start kind of going a little bit more eagle eye on this to attribute what ads you think are working. Obviously, this really isn't ideal, but it is what we have to deal with, and we have to be smart about making sure that if we're making key decisions on ads, we're no longer looking at the results like we used to a while ago. So, with all that said, it is a little bit of a spanner in the works, but it's really not that much of a game changer. You're still going to be able to run really effective ads. You're still going to be able to optimize things really well. And look, knowing how the Facebooks and the Googles of this world operate, chances are this is a real good opportunity for them to really up their game and make even better algorithms that serve ads in a better way and probably are going to be better for you and your business. So look, I hope that helped. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments. You can always get in touch. The email will be on screen. If you need any help or advice, let us know, and good luck marketing.